Welcome in to another edition of the Full-Time Roundup podcast. This is your co-host Daniel Brackett. Joined alongside me, we have Danny Brams, the two Dannys today. Danny Brams, thank you so much for coming on today to discuss some footy, and I hope you're doing well.
The two Dannies, baby. I absolutely love it. On the road, traveling for work, but had to get up and get going here because we had some massive results in the last few days and a lot of footy to talk about. I'm very happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
No problem. It's going to be a sad one. Waking up this morning, just realizing there was no more Euros, no more Copa America.
So
just and MLS won't even be on, for a month or so, starting in a little bit. So it's that time of year where sports kind of take a pause, but I'm sure we'll be able to get through it as Charlotte FC has been playing pretty well as of late. But we'll go ahead and jump right into. We'll start with the Euros here, since that was the first game that happened on Sunday, and Spain plays England in the final in Berlin. And Spain looked like the best team. They have all tournament. They've looked the best. They've had the best path to the final, and they just looked a light years better than England.
Yeah, I mean, England hung for a while. They got a very dramatic, exciting equalizer on a nice play, but they were always second best to almost everything on the pitch. I thought Spain was pretty much the favorite from the first opening group game that I saw them play, and that held that held form all the way through. Spain is just relentless, and they got some young attackers, they got some veteran attackers, they got the great mix of experience and youth all over the pitch. Unai Simon, the goalkeeper, really was not hardly tested at all. He did make a couple of saves. And I was really blown away when Spain subbed Rodri at half. And, I was like, why is Rodri coming out when it's still a 0-0 match? And that didn't hold Spain back at all. They just kept right on cooking. The guys they bring in are also very good, and really, really nice moments. The first half was kind of cagey and I wouldn't call it boring, but it wasn't like super exciting, but just an electric second half in Berlin for sure.
Absolutely. And I mentioned the path within the knockouts. They beat Georgia, but they also beat Germany, the host of the tournament, and France, both 2-1. So, I mean, they had definitely one of the harder paths of any team in this tournament to get to the final. And you mentioned Rodri. I think he had a knock. I
figured that was what it was. I missed that on the broadcast. Yeah.
Yeah, I did too, because he was, playing just fine before they went out or they went in for the halftime. So I'm not really sure, what the communication was, but it was a surprise for me as well. And I feared for Spain once Rodri was not going to be playing, but then they literally, within 30 seconds of me saying that to my buddies, they go down and they score the winner, or not the winner, but they score the opening goal, if you will. And it seemed like this was always going to be inevitable for England, because they've played the same way all tournament long. It's been maddening that they've been able to kind of just, I don't even know, slide their way to the final. It just, every single knockout round other than the Dutch game was a draw, and they had to win in PKs or extra time. It was always going to happen, and I feel like football won yesterday.
Yeah, I think I saw England conceded first in every knockout game, and somehow found ways to advance. They became comeback kids, and they excited a lot of their fan base. But it's kind of an indictment at a certain point. I know everyone loves to complain about Gareth Southgate, and I don't know. I mean, I'm not really blown away by his coaching, I guess, but it has to start to say something when your subs are always better than your starters. I know Harry Kane is Harry Kane, and he just had a bad tournament. He didn't really play that well from start to finish. He might even been carrying knocks himself. I'm not sure, but Kane was not really productive. And anytime they subbed him out, then bring in Ollie Watkins or bring in even Tony looked good when he would come in. Like, it just seemed like and Cole Palmer, who scored, came in as a sub yesterday. Like, it just seemed like England's subs were always better than their starters, and at a certain point, you might have to change it up and actually start the subs, right?
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more there.
Like, it would have been cool for Gareth to make like a bold decision and like drop Kane for the final. They might have, people would have thought it was crazy. It would have been a shock, but like the way it played out, it would have been worth a try, I feel.
Yeah, even when it comes to Kane, like obviously Kane's probably the best player, for England, but you have players like Phil.
I don't know about that. Foden
You don't
didn't
think
play
so?
well. I mean, Saka's way better than Kane, obviously, I think. Not even close.
Really? Yeah. I don't know. I mean, domestically, at least, just within previous history, I would say, Kane, most people would regard Kane as, the best player maybe, but, Phil Foden has played terrible all tournament, and, Kyle Walker hasn't been up to snuff this tournament. And so, you mentioned Cole Palmer, more goals and assists than Foden, didn't even get a start. He's come off the bench for the last 20 minutes of the game. Has completely changed the game almost every single game with a nice goal today. Even Jude Bellingham with Southgate's system just made him look fairly normal,
right?
And not the Real Madrid Jude that we usually see. So it's going to be. I'm curious to see who England's going to look for when Southgate walks away from this job, because you can't doubt that it's a loaded team, and in the World Cup in 2 years, they're going to be just as good, if not better. Who do you think they should look at?
Klopp? I don't know, right? That's what everybody wants. No, he's taking some time away. I don't really have the answer for who England should hire. I do think that they need some fresh blood as far as Southgate is just not the dude, and they are a very good collection of individual talents, but someone's got to put that together and make it click for sure. What do you think?
Yeah.
You got any names?
Not an English manager. I feel like their situation is very similar to the United States in the fact that we have individual talent, like you mentioned, but we just cannot put it together with 11 players on a field. And obviously, England's situation is a hell of a lot better than the US's in terms of talent level, just being able to actually get to finals and things like that. But there's a reason that there is not many English coaches that make it. It was just within the international or domestic space. So I would probably try to look for an international manager at this point and see. Now who that is, don't really know at this time, but I feel like you could find some really good managers, world-class managers out there, just old club managers who are not working right now, or just Jurgen Low, for example, a German manager who's just on the sidelines right now. He could come in and work his magic. So we'll have to see what they do. But on the other side, I wanted to talk about Spain. I thought De La Fuente, didn't really know who he was before this tournament, but I thought he coached this team extremely well. It's a young Spain team. I mean, you lose Rodri at halftime, you lose Pedri in the game versus Germany in the first 5 minutes, and Dani Olmo comes in and fits just like a glove. This Spain team is so young. Lamine Yamal and Nico Williams have caused teams havoc all tournament long. I am extremely bullish for their future, and I know we were talking about it yesterday. I mean, they could be favorites for the World Cup as well.
Yeah, I mean, Spain is an even better collection and mix of young and old, right, than England, and there's no reason to think that they're stopping anytime soon. I don't know why De La Fuente would want to leave personally, but this is very reminiscent of the 2008 Euros won by Spain, where then they went on to do the double and win the World Cup in 2010, right? So, like, I think we could be looking at that again for sure.
Yeah, when it comes to the player of the tournament, as we wrap up Euros, who do you think should be voted best player of the tournament?
I would have given it to Olmo. I think Olmo was he scored goals. He had the championship saving clearance off the line with his head when England was pressing for that 2-2 equalizer in the 90th, and really should have got it. They had two really good chances, and Unai saved one, and then Olmo saved the other. Like, I just think I love Rodri's game. I don't really love that he's a Man City player. I wish he could be somewhere else, but Rodri is very good, and Rodri controls the game so well. He just owns the midfield. But I think Rodri scored a goal also in the tournament. But for me, it's got to be Danny Olmo, I think.
Yeah, you could definitely make that argument. It wouldn't be an England players for me, so
Right.
I mean, it's weird because I think Nico Williams and Lamine Lamal should both be the young player of the tournament, just how good they were.
Yeah.
Now I think Lamine will win the young player of the tournament, but you could arguably put Nico Williams as the player of the tournament. I mean, he scored in the final.
True.
He had a ton of different goal contributions. He had a goal and assist against Georgia, and he's had an assist. Actually, no, he didn't really contribute that much as I thought when it came to scoring goals. But I don't know.
He was my favorite player with an assist from Lamal is pretty nice.
Yeah, and he's only 22 years of age. I feel like he really announced himself to the world on this tournament. So I'd say he would be my player of the tournament. Or Olmo. Olmo was just a revelation. I think him and Nico Williams will be finding big moves in the summer after their performance in the Euros, which makes me excited because I've been a fan of especially Olmo's for a long time. Now, I wanted to.
I mean, we got two Dannys here. How about that? We got to give it to another Danny, right? I mean, come on.
Exactly. No, you can't be more right than that. And when it comes to Copa America, the shift into that tournament, it's a hard transition because of all the stuff that went on last night, right? You have just Hard Rock Stadium being basically under siege by fans, overcrowded, people paying thousands of dollars for seats and not being able to sit in them. Mm-hmm. Just an overall shit show. And the game was postponed all the way till 9:15. Right. So I think the game actually ended at 11:30 or something of that nature.
I mean, if it wasn't the final, then you could see, people were calling for it, even with it being the final. People were saying you got to postpone it, and things like that. I mean, they destroyed escalators. I saw video of people like climbing through vents and things like, climbing into vents and things like that. Absolute insanity. I get, everyone wants to see the final, and you think you're seeing, Messi's potential, final game in the national. Who knows if that's true? But Colombia, Argentina, definitely, a bit of a rivalry, and people wanted to get in there, but I don't know. Like, I just think more security is needed. I guess I don't really have the answers. People just need to be better. Also, I do take issue a little bit. We saw some issues in Charlotte with people crowding in a little bit, and the fights in the stands after the Uruguay, Colombia, and Charlotte. And don't blame Charlotte, don't blame Miami, blame the tournament organizers. I mean, these stadiums have, they get sold out all the time, and there's huge events all the time. And it's not like a black eye for the city or anything like that. It's a black eye for the tournament organizers and their inability to keep things under control. So I think there's people, Bielsa was saying like the U.S. can't host a World Cup. I say F that. That's not true at all. We can totally host a World Cup. I think it's bad, everything that happened, but if taken as a wake-up call and a chance to learn a few things and do better next time, I think ultimately that the World Cup can still go off without a hitch. A lot of property damage, though, and a lot of, psycho fans, like sports fans are crazy, like from college football, from students burning couches after their team wins big games to people, rushing the gates at soccer matches and stuff like that. Sports fans are a little crazy. I believe this happened in Europe too, also, right? There was issues with some big matches, big international matches in the recent years. It's not just a South America thing. It's really just a worldwide thing, and people just need to be better.
Yeah, I mean, I remember, or someone was talking about how this happened at the last Euros. Something like this happened, and then the one I remember is Champions League final, Liverpool, Real Madrid, and Paris.
Yes, yep.
There was a lot of stuff that kind of went on with the players' families and things like that, and so, this is a pretty common thing, but it's even more common for CONMEBOL to have these events be a nightmare. They've been doing it for years, and they just happened to be put on one of the biggest stages last night,
Hmm.
and they did not look very good. I've been very critical of them all tournament. I think last time we recorded, I went on like a rant about how
Love a
bad
Danny rant.
it's been. Yeah, I mean, it's just when it comes to these tournaments, especially. I mean, you have the best player of all time playing one of his last games. Like, what do you expect
Hmm.
this like to happen? Like, everyone wants to witness that,
Yeah.
and so it's just really disappointing. Just because, of course, it's in the U.S. The U.S. is going to get flack for it, even though it's probably not even their fault. But yeah, I think this was a very good learning curve for us for the World Cup,
Hmm.
and I think
I
most
hope so.
people will
Yeah.
be fairly prepared when that time comes. But let's get to the actual game here.
Yeah.
And Argentina and Colombia, it was a very cagey match throughout the 90 into the extra time, and Argentina, like I mentioned before, this is the first time that they have just not depended on Lionel Messi to
Hmm.
take them to the promised land, if you will, and they did this all tournament long. Like Lionel Messi is great, but you can see the decline a little bit now with his legs and everything, and he
Hmm.
goes off in the 60th minute with an ankle injury. Just could not continue.
In tears.
He's
Yeah.
in tears. That was really tough for me to watch personally. Um, I've
Nobody wants
watched
to see Messi
Messi.
crying. Yeah. Yeah. It's rough.
No one, but he's been like the best player in the world for literally my entire life,
Yeah.
and he's a guy who stays away from the limelight. He doesn't really, and you don't see that much emotion within the on the pitch either. I would
Hmm.
say most of the time, other than him winning the World Cup, and see that you saw Ronaldo cry in the Euros too. Two legends of the game, just like
Yeah.
not being able to control their emotions at the biggest game of their careers and the last game of their careers internationally. That was a tough thing to watch, but I'm just really glad that Argentina got it done for their teammate Messi.
Yeah. I was pulling for Colombia. I don't have any real love for the Argentinian team necessarily. I do like to watch Messi play when he's on. He was definitely not really on last night. He had one big chance in the box early that that got blocked, right? By he shot it into his own guy. Basically, he shot Julian Alvarez. Kind of couldn't get out of the way of it. And other than that, he didn't really do that much. I'm not going to declare Messi's done, but I do start to think like, how much can he really contribute to the rest of an MLS season? He's always banged up. He's missed time already in MLS this year. I'm not sure he finishes the season at this rate. The way that he's just like, it's not just like one, like his ankle's bad, but he's just been going and going and going for so long. It feels like his body is breaking down, and he may have a resurgent sort of run and surprise me. But right now, I'm not really. I'm a little worried for what the future of Leo Messi holds. I don't see how he can play in the 2026 World Cup. I'm sure he'd love to, except as maybe like a super sub or something like that, which I don't know how he would fit in that role, or a spiritual, a spiritual talisman that doesn't, come on the pitch, doesn't play as many minutes, but just kind of comes in and tries to contribute late in key games. I thought Colombia was great last night early, and they ran out of steam. I think they really took it to Argentina early. I thought Mojica running up and down that left wing was incredible. I thought Luis Diaz was awesome as both a winger, and then he kind of moved central for a while. Everyone, James Rodriguez, was creating chances, doing his thing, serving balls in the box on free kicks. And I just felt like Colombia just ran out of steam. They were going hard, 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 but by the end of it, by the extra time, they couldn't go, like, even the last 10 minutes of regular time, it's like you could tell they were just kind of trying to hold on. They subbed late. They didn't sub anybody, I think, until like 80 minutes in.
Which is wild, yeah.
Yeah, and so they were playing. You could call it playing for penalties or whatever. It's possible that that's what was in some minds, but it was just a shame that, because I wanted to see Colombia win it, and they had been so even from the pre-tournament friendly where they waxed the United States. I don't love that, but like they to me had been the best team in this tournament. They won one of the knockout games like 6-1, right? And like they were a pretty fun team to watch. I like Luis Diaz and I like James Rodriguez and I like their supporting cast. It's just a damn shame that they couldn't get a goal because and they were also really organized on defense. When Argentina would come at them, they were really good at staying in shape and shutting down attacks, but they just ran out of gas, I felt like, at the end. And they were definitely trying to get to penalties in that second extra time. And you saw Lautaro Martinez, that, Argentina had the blessing of being able to bring in like world-class subs and, Juanfer Quintero, who came in, to start to provide a late spark for Colombia. He's a good player down, plays in the Argentinian league, I believe, and still, but he's not Lautaro Martinez, who just, scores goals in Serie A for fun. So that goal was really nice, the way that the run came and the pass came, and Lautaro was like just, he got inside his defender and the ball was rolled into the perfect space, and it was a wrap.
Yeah, speaking of Lautaro, that was probably the most surprising, thing of, Scaloni's game plan for Argentina was starting Julian Alvarez over Lautaro Martinez. And not only that, but Lautaro Martinez did not come into the 97th minute of extra time.
Late. Yeah.
He
got it done though.
He did, but I mean, he's been your highest scorer all tournament. Why you don't throw him on in the 75th minute and see if you can go get a late winner before extra time? I didn't really understand that. In terms of Colombia, I thought they did get the game plan right, the entire 90. I just would have liked to see Sinistera and Borre, maybe throw in a John Durand instead of Borja, not Borle. John Durand looked really good at the end of the season in the Premier League. So I'm surprised that he was very underutilized. And then I like Sinistera a lot as a player. And I thought when he came on as like a cameo role against Uruguay in the semis, I thought he looked very dangerous going forward. So I think he could have given them a little bit of that attacking oomph that they lacked. But at this point, we're just splitting hairs. I picked Colombia to go the distance and to win. So I'm with you. I was hoping Colombia would win, but I'm also glad like Messi got his last Copa America. Argentina has the most Copa Americas in South America with 16, Uruguay with 15, Brazil with 9, which surprised me. Actually, I didn't think Brazil would be that low on the list.
Brazil only cares about World Cups, man. No, I don't know. I mean. As far as Julian Alvarez, I just think he's a more complete player. I think, and Lautaro is more of a pure goal scorer. So obviously you need goals in a final. They could have started Martinez, but I'm never mad with the Alvarez start. I don't think he played his best game, unfortunately for him. But I love Julian Alvarez, one of my favorite players. Another guy that I wish was anywhere except Man City, but love his game. I think he can really. To be honest, if Messi's not there, Alvarez actually can really play even kind of a 10 role and be a playmaker. He's not really a striker is his thing, but he's been miscast as a striker by Pepe and Scaloni. So, like, I don't know. I think that it was a little late for Lautaro to came in, but it was right on time also if you're an Argentina fan. And I did love to see – Emi Martinez played a good game. It's funny. He made 4. I just checked. He made 4 saves, but those were all in like the first 30 minutes of the match. Like, just speaks to sort of my Colombia ran out of gas. Like, Colombia had 4 shots on goal in the first half and like none after that, in the next, to 120 minutes. So they came in like a blitz. And when Argentina had weathered the storm and settled into the match that they wanted to play, which was slowed it down a little bit and made it more about absorbing pressure and countering, it worked.
Yeah, if Colombia was to score, it'd be off a set piece from James. That's how I felt. And they got close a couple times. I mean, David Sanchez had a pretty good opportunity later in the game, a ball kind of held up after Cordoba kind of flicked it on to the back post. But other than, like you said, the first 15, 20 minutes, they from open play, they didn't look like anything was going to happen, really. Now, we talked about Copa America final, but I wanted to talk about a couple other experiences that we've had. I was able to go to the semifinal game, Colombia versus Uruguay, and I just wanted to share my experience. And then I know that you went to a game as well, so I'd love to hear your experience there. But going to that game, it was on a Wednesday at 8 p.m. and I signed out of work and went right to the Hop Fly at like 5 o'clock, and going to Hot Fly at 5 o'clock before this match, the entire Charlotte grid was shut down for this game.
How'd you even get there?
The light rail, thank goodness. The light rail was fine. It was very busy, but if you looked at Apple Maps, anytime from 4:30 to 11, it was just all red and yellow because the city could not handle how many Colombians and Uruguayans, Colombians especially, came to Charlotte to watch this game. Hot Fly, all Uruguayan bar. I was like, okay.
It was crazy there. Yeah, I was there.
It was crazy.
And they had been singing and shouting and chanting there since like 2 o'clock.
Yeah, because I remember you recorded Charlotte Soccer Show, and I heard it in the background when the Euros were going on. And I was thinking to myself, they were doing this for 5 hours.
Yeah, it was nonstop. It was crazy.
But the Uruguayan guys took over the bar, and so I was thinking, okay, maybe there will be a good presence of Uruguayans.
But it was like, it was like the one. There was like their one pocket because Colombian fans were 90 to 10. I feel like once they got to the stadium for sure.
Exactly, and then John Hayes must have lifted like the Batmobile beacon for Uruguayan fans to come to Hot Fly. But walking to the stadium, even trying to get into the stadium was just nuts. It was a huge mass crowd. They did a pretty good job. Everyone was pretty civil and everything, but I just hadn't seen a crowd like that outside of a stadium for a while. And then we get up to our seats. It cooled down by then, and we look out and it's a sea of yellow. And I just couldn't believe how many Colombian fans were there. That was completely my fault for not expecting that. But it was a wild experience, especially they scored on our side. And so, it was just me and my buddy with a bunch of Colombian fans just going nuts. They celebrated like we were one of them. And it was an absolute blast of a game, even with the red card. Still a lot of fun. And then we both got to go to the third place match in Charlotte this weekend on Saturday, Canada versus Uruguay. You were on the field, basically. Tell us about that.
Not on the field, but just I was lucky enough to get invited to go watch the match from the vault. Great. Obviously, always a great place to be. I definitely took advantage of the open bar, got a little toasty, had a good time. Really, it was like if you compare the crowd size for the semifinal versus the third place match, you would have said Bank of America was empty because there was, I think they announced like 23,000 or 24 maybe as the official attendance. And I swear there was maybe 10,000 people there, maybe. Like it was very, very much more chill situation. But it's kind of funny because, there's something on the line, some people are going to hate third place games. Some people are going to be like, think they're all right. But Canada wanted to win. Canada for sure wanted to get on the podium at a CONMEBOL tournament. That would have been a huge step for Canada to win. Granted that the Uruguayans kind of the wind had gone out of their sails, but they started a strong team. It's not like they started a bunch of scrubs. They started their regular team. They brought Luis Suarez on at halftime for Nunez. I don't know, it's crazy how no suspensions or anything like that were handed down from the post-game fight after the semifinal, but maybe those are still to come. But yeah, since it was only a couple days later, Darwin Nunez started despite his spider crawl up into the stands and getting in fights with fans. But it was nice. It was still a really good, fast-paced game. When you're down, anytime you're down, and you can see the match from the level of the field, it's the speed always amazing. That's any sport, whether it's college football, NFL, big time soccer. NBA. Like when you're close, the speed just like pops out at you so much more. And this was no different. What I loved about these top level teams is the way that just guys just pass and move, pass and move, pass and move. And it's like, boom, I pass, I run. I get the balls come to me, I one touch pass it to someone else and go. And like, but you know, the Uruguayans were really good at that. The Canadians were really good at that. Canada took it to Uruguay for most of this match. And it just the contrast with when you watch MLS, and I love MLS. I'm a huge MLS fan. I'm not saying that MLS can't be fast, but so many times when I'm watching MLS, it's like, okay, the ball's coming to me. I'm going to get it. I'm going to gather it. I'm going to take a touch. I'm going to look around, survey my options. I'm going to dribble over here a little bit and pass it backwards, you know, and it's like, man, I would just love to see MLS just get faster and more instinctive the way some of these national teams are. They're kind of forced into it, right? Because they don't have a lot of practice time, so that they don't really the players don't really have like set like, you know, tactics or as much as they just play the way they know how to play. And it's really exciting. Like I said, 2-2, you know, 4 goals were scored, a couple goals scored right in front of us, which was good to see. And then, you know, El Pistolero, like I'm not a huge Luis Suarez fan, but I recognize his talent and what he's achieved in this game. And so it was really great to see, you know, I was sitting next to my friend Nick, and like I'm watching Canada. You know, I'm like, man, Canada's going to win. Canada's actually going to beat Uruguay and get 3rd place in Copa America. And but my friend Nick, who was sitting next to me, he's like, no, he's like, Uruguay's got one more in him, man. I just feel like Uruguay's going to score here. And he was saying that from like the 60th minute, and like this, you know, time keeps passing, and that you could almost feel it when that sweeping counter started, and you know, Uruguay got you know 90th minute, and all of a sudden they find themselves with the ball running at goal, and you know, Schaffelberg had played such a really great game down that side for Canada, and so did Alistair Johnson. I think he subbed out, but all the Canadian guys were really impressive. But you just knew once that move started, and all of a sudden, you know, the guy on the wings got ahead of his defender, and he has the ability to cross it back to Luis Suarez. You know, Suarez is not going to miss in that spot, and so like I have to think that was certainly his final international game. I could be wrong about that, but really awesome to see, you know, to be in the building for what was presumably his final ever goal.
100%. Yeah, I wasn't planning on going. I was actually moving apartments all day long, and but it was. And my cousin gave me a call, and they had some free tickets, and so I get to take advantage of that. So you know, showed up right at kickoff. You know, like you said, we were treated to an absolute fun game, 2-2. I thought Uruguay started the match well, and then Canada grew into the match. I expected Uruguay to win, but after watching, I actually was more impressed with Canada than Uruguay. I think Bielsa giving Suarez a whole half was interesting. I think that was out of respect and not being, you know, the biggest deal for Uruguay at this point, just to like, you know, nod your cap to Suarez and let him get a full 45 in, as definitely his last Uruguayan match. When it came to Canada, you know, you mentioned Schaffelberg. I was extremely impressed with him. You know, throughout the tournament, to be honest, he just is so athletic. So if he can just become a little bit more technical, I think he can make the move overseas for sure. But the player I liked the most out of Canada was Ismail Kone, number 8.
Scissor kick goal. He had an awesome equalizer, yeah.
Beautiful equalizer, as well as he was a Montreal player, got the big move to the championship with Watford, and then Watford just sold him for $15 million to Marseille. He is silky.
Yeah.
And he reminds me a lot of another player we saw this tournament who kind of came out of nowhere, Daniel Rios, for Colombia, the 6 for Colombia. Both of them have very similar characteristics. And Ismail Kone has already gotten, you know, his big move. But I could see Daniel Rios from Palmeiras get a move to the Premier League. Hopefully it's Liverpool, because I like him a lot. But going back to the game, I think going to a third place game, 2 Copa America games in 1 week, checked a lot off the bucket list. I got to watch some Euro and some Copa America in the different countries. So it's been a wild ride for me this last couple weeks to a month, but
Yeah, good for you,
I
man.
just,
Good on you.
yeah, it's been some fantastic soccer to enjoy.
Absolutely true, and it was really fun. Tournaments to watch all and track all the way through. Getting to go to some of the games at the end, definitely a cherry on top. And the other thing that was fun was while I was in there watching that third place game, I had
LFC.
we had Charlotte FC playing in Cincinnati. They played one of their best games of the year. I have SofaScore app, right? So I'd get a SofaScore notification that a goal had been scored or whatever. So then I could, and that's usually ahead of the video stream. So then I could like pull out my phone and like get fire up Apple app real quick and like see what had just happened. But like I could sort of see it in real time, in real time to me anyway. You know what I'm saying? And it was great. So when the early goals, Charlotte scored 2 quick goals, and we watched those, in the stands. And that was awesome. And then, Cincy pulled one back right before half, and then right after half, Charlotte concedes a penalty, and I'm like, oh no, we're gonna go 2-2. We're gonna lose this thing 3-2 or whatever. And so I pulled out the phone. I'm sitting there with buddies on each side, and we're like, come on, watching the penalty, and freaking Kalina saved it, man. It was awesome. That I screamed probably louder for that Kalina save watching on video than some of the stuff that was happening right in front of me, just because I love Charlotte FC, and I thought draw at best when Charlotte went to Cincinnati was like the best they could possibly hope for. So to come out and just like dominate that match and just really take it to them, go up big early, hold them down, for the most part, limit Lucho Acosta, although he did score a goal. Miles Robinson gets a red card, and all of a sudden Charlotte is looking like they can compete after looking pretty bad against Miami a little while ago, the previous game. They looked really good against Cincinnati, who I think is a better team than Miami.
No, absolutely. They had it on in the box, like on one of the TVs. So I would look back and kind of try to keep up with the Charlotte FC game. I was able to watch the replay last night, and I was thinking about how to approach this when we were going to talk about it. And the only thing I could think of is, what the fuck was that? Yeah. Like, I could not believe. I mean, I was extremely confident in Charlotte FC losing that game to Cincy.
Right.
I
had to say, but yeah, of course, yeah.
I did not have a good feeling. Cincy had been they've been trending in the right direction. Absolutely just destroyed Inter Miami. We lost to Inter Miami. Just doing the math, I was like, Lucho Acosta last year, he put up an absolute mixtape against us with a goal that is still replayed on MLS to this day. And just did not feel very good about it. No Ajimon as well, so I felt like we had a big hole at the 9 position, and then Westwood, just our captain, just absolutely pulls out a vintage Westwood Premier League performance here. Scores. I mean, the ball to Yuri Tavares to start out the goal was just, he knew what he was going to do, and he was just waiting for that layoff. Perfect layoff, perfect weight. And he's just able to get his hips around it to completely loop it to the back post. Shout out to Yuri Tavares for hitting that first time on frame. Yep. Not an easy thing to do, a thing that we usually don't see in Charlotte FC teams do. So Yuri Tavares absolutely took a shot. I thought he actually played really well. I think he links up play, and he's actually surprisingly really good at a 1v1. So I think he does have a future as like a bench member in the squad, and he continues to prove his worth there. And then you got the Abada goal, which, I mean, in my opinion, a phenomenal finish. But it all started with Brant Bronica and Westwood pressing Cincinnati in their defensive half. Cincy's defensive half, Bronica wins it. Westwood with just one touch, all he needs, diagonal ball to Abada. Abada touch upper 90 immediately. That's the quality that we've been missing, DB, and we've been calling for years now. And I mean, that was just an automatic finish.
Yeah. Yep.
It's just so good. And then you got Kerwin Vargas off a corner with a hat trick of assists. Westwood almost had 4 assists.
Yeah, he should have had 4.
Privet. Privet with the dime of the header. I mean, Kalina, like you mentioned, had the PK save. He
Yeah.
had had a couple other good saves. Cincy had a couple goals overturned. We had a goal overturned, so I guess it went even there. But I still thought Cincy did play a good game, but it was just not their day, and it was Charlotte's day, and we got to see that on full display.
Yeah, and the way the timing worked out, if that goes 2-2 in the 46th minute, it's a totally different match. So Kalina's save, certainly. The goals were great, and Westwood Masterclass was so fun to soak in. But you gotta love Kalina, and you gotta love Malanda conceding the penalty. That rarely happens. But did you hear the story about how Kalina said, like, I told Addie to tell me which way I should dive, and so, like, just that story really meant a lot to me. If you haven't heard it, if anyone hasn't heard it that's listening, Kalina said post game, he's like, yeah, I knew Malanda had his head down because he conceded the penalty. So I just went to him and I said, which way should I dive? And he told me go left. And so then I had to play head games. I had to play the mind games standing on the line from Acosta to make sure he kicked it to my left. And, Kalina was diving left all the way. If that Acosta could have freaking just rolled that thing to the other side at 0.01 miles per hour, and it would have gone in. Kalina was just like, as soon as he starts his run up, I'm diving left. And but just an awesome moment of teamwork and togetherness and leadership and things like that. Really cool way that played out, and it was saved the match. After that, it wasn't too much longer after that since he picks up the red card, and then all of a sudden Charlotte's cruising. So 2-2 versus 2-1 in that moment was extremely important. I can't believe Andy Privet's goal got waved off. I don't know what these refs are thinking. Like, give Andrew a freaking goal, and I would have
what a header that was, too.
Yeah, and I would have loved to see Westwood with the quadruple.
Yeah, just thinking about this game, this has got to be one of the more vintage Charlotte FC performances we've had in terms of who we're playing, the opposite Queen City, showing them who's boss. Not only is Cincy, one of the best teams in the league, but it's an away match with a number 9 that's suspended. I mean, obviously, this isn't the standard because that's a lot to be asking of Charlotte FC every week, but we're seeing from this Dean Smith side that the potential to make a run, if we get all the guys that we need to, is very possible. And I think this is very reassuring performance, and it was a fun game to watch as well.
Yeah, it was it's sad that it's not sad, but just it's kind of funny. Like the one time I don't get that many eyes on on the live match, I had to I usually do rewatch every Charlotte match a second time. This time I had to live on just the rewatch because I was after that third place game. But it's like, maybe I should watch. Maybe I shouldn't be watching. Maybe I should, if they're going to turn in their best performance of the season, then maybe it should just ban me from watching. I don't know, but it's really nice, and it fires you up. It's it's a result that just feels like you can just build off of it. And who knows what's going to happen Wednesday when Charlotte has to go take on Columbus, another one of the the best team in the league, 3 matches in a row. It seems like they've had to play here, but it feels good. I feel confident. I feel really good about it. Columbus is going to be a whole other animal. They're I don't know how that's going to go, but I was hoping to maybe get 1 or 2 points out of this whole Ohio road trip, Ohio double here before going to Austin, which I'll be in the building for Charlotte at Austin next week, which I can't wait, next weekend. I'm going down to Austin, Texas for that. But to already have 3 points when I was hoping for 2, you got to feel like it's a positive week for Charlotte no matter what now.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, lightning does not strike twice. So I do not feel great about that, that Columbus Charlotte FC game, but I didn't feel good about this one. So who knows? Maybe I won't watch it live and I'll rewatch. Maybe that'll give us some good video as well at DB. But in terms of the national team job, some news came out that Greg Berhalter has been fired effective immediately. And so now the USSF will be looking for our new manager to lead us into the World Cup of 2026 in our home country. there's been a lot of names floated out. The dust has kind of settled when it came to Greg's firing, and we've been going on ongoing dialogue about who we think the manager should be or who should get a shout. A lot of people have echoed Rivard. There's been a lot of people with the Sharundalo versus Nancy discourse within, if you look internally. I would like to hear your opinion since Jurgen Klopp has been ruled out of the job.
Oh, the end of my dream, man. The end of my dream.
End of all of our dreams.
Yeah, I've been saying for years, people said I was crazy a couple of years ago when I first started floating this, but the timing all seemed like it was going to work out. Even before Klopp left Liverpool, I was like, oh, he'll be the next U.S. coach. He'll be the next U.S. coach. Then he leaves Liverpool, and I'm like, the dominoes are falling into place. But, we're not going to get him. It looks like he wants his year off. That's fine. And who knows if he would really even be a good – Klopp is a great manager, but he also always has the best players, type of situation. So that may not necessarily work in a national team concept. I think that for me, I would probably want Nancy. I know Cherundolo has earned a lot of props. He won MLS Cup. People like him for LAFC. I just think Nancy has a little bit more of a coherent vision for how he wants to play. His teams always look very good, and I think he can. I'm not saying I don't know. I don't want to make one-to-one comparisons for players, but I really like the way he runs his club. They lose Lucas Zelarayan a couple years ago. Don't miss a beat. Still go on to win MLS Cup. They bring in. Now Aiden Morris is gone and off, and it was recent, but they're still looking pretty good even with him leaving. So I just think Nancy is probably better than Cherundolo in my mind at getting the most out of his players, and that's who if you're going to go with the internal candidate, that's who I definitely want to see. Now, having said that, I think it's kind of time, like you were saying with England, might be time for the U.S. to look outside of their domestic situation and go for someone who's just a total outsider and someone who can bring really, truly fresh eyes to a lot of this. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that happen, but I don't love the idea of I don't hate the idea, but I don't love the idea of Stevie Cherundolo being shipped into that position, because it feels a little bit like, part of the U.S. soccer's problem, U.S. men's soccer's problem, because the women are doing fine, is that, they're too navel gazing. They're too into their own sort of little it's a little clubby, it's like, oh, if you're in the club, then you're good. If you're not, then you're not, and stuff like that. So I'm not saying Cherundolo's necessarily in the club, but, he's a former U.S. men's national player. And I just think, the time could be right for a big time shakeup and just get some really outside the box candidates or a hire in there for sure.
We need a new slate for sure. Cherundolo is one of the last managers I'd want. And we just saw with Wilfred Nancy versus Cherundolo team. Wilfred Nancy's team just absolutely wiped the floor with them this weekend. Columbus versus LAFC. Also, I've seen Cherundolo be outcoached within, playing the Champions League within the North America Champions League. So I've seen him outcoached there. So just not really a fan. He just has been lucky that he's had the best team in MLS for a while now. That's why they win games.
Right. That's how I feel. Yeah.
So I just don't think he's that good of a tactics coach. I think Nancy is kind of a diamond in the rough here. Not a lot of people outside the U.S. know who Wilfred Nancy is, but I actually think that he could take a step up. If not the U.S. job, just internationally, he could go abroad and get actually a decent head coaching job and do well. So I rate Nancy as a coach. I think an outside the box would be good. I mentioned Renard, but there's plenty other managers. Marcel Gallardo is a free agent right now. Just a couple other guys, Jurgi Low, that you could look at. But Danny, it's been a pleasure talking some footy with you on this Monday. Mondays are a whole lot better now. And thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me, man. Always a pleasure to join in the two Dannies.
Absolutely. And enjoy your work trip, and I'll see you soon.
Peace.